Well, I'm just a person who very invested in my community and my students and my work, my family. I've been here for a long time, very, very long time, all my life actually. The farthest I've ever been at one time, as far as living away from home, was Tuscaloosa when I went to college and couldn't wait to get back. So this is my neck of the woods. These are my people. And I've been here for a long time. All of my background is in English. I have a master's degree in English and 4 or 5 classes towards my PhD in English. I've been teaching 31 years. I teach both high school English and college English. I'm also a teacher of the dual enrollment program, but I've also taught 10th and 11th grade and 9th grade. So I've taught all grade levels at the high school. Very well versed in the backgrounds of the curriculum, the expectations of both Florida and Alabama, because I have 10 years in the Alabama school system as well. But know just about everybody in the community, you know, have no desire to go anywhere else. So that's who I am.
You've told us that expressed concerns about the type of books that are available to the students in the school here that you work in. Tell us about that.
This is something that actually happened accidentally for me back in May, before school was out, this past school year. We had been sent classroom novel sets, and I finally had the time in my curriculum to delve into this particular novel. And this novel was called Perks of Being a Wallflower, and it was considered a New York Times bestseller. I had never heard of this book, nor had I read this book, but I started flipping through it and then took it home to read and was absolutely floored at the obscenities that I found in the book. And I immediately sent an email the next day, on May the 13th actually. I sent an email to the English supervisor for the school district, to my principals, and to, I believe, to the high school director of education, asking who approved these books, where did they come from. And I was told, the response that I got was that, you know, all of the English teachers voted on these, which they did. But my response back to that was, who pre-read these books in order to put the 5 choices on the list? And never got a response. The only thing that I was told was that some people had certainly read these books and they were put on the list. I kept going with it. And I sent email after email. I sent an email to the head of the media services. Her name is Miss Michelle White. And all of these people have been very kind. But the bottom line is, I've been wanting to know who approved the books, who gave the green light to order the books, what was the point because of what's in the books. And anyway, to make a long story short, after a series of constant emails, the director of high school education, Lisa Morgan, and Michelle White, the director of media services, came down and we had a very cordial meeting. And my suggestion was, and my concern was, I, for instance, having so many years experience, I would never utilize this book in a classroom setting because of the situations that were in this book. There are things in this book talking about sex for the very first time, masturbation, potential sex with a dog, being off with a girl and not having a condom, so using a plastic Ziploc bag instead. Unreal. And I could never imagine any teacher wanting to utilize this in a classroom content. I was told this was optional. My concern was, what happens when you have brand new teachers who are not skilled and who are not, they do not have the English background per se. When they have been given classroom novel sets that have been purchased and sent by the school district, you are implicitly saying, use these. because you're putting the green light on them, and that was my concern. And that's what I told the district. I was very concerned about it. So I was told that I needed to fill out a form in order to have this book removed from a potential usage as a classroom novel. So that's exactly what I did. On July the 22nd, excuse me, June the 13th, I submitted paperwork, May the 24th, I submitted paperwork to have this book reviewed. I was told a school committee would be devised, and the school committee would decide if this book should be removed. And I'm like, who is on the school committee? And it was my principal, my assistant principal, one other person who used to be a former English teacher, the librarian, Michelle White, also came down, and then a parent from the community, and then a coach. Then on June the 13th, so a while had gone by, I asked it for an update on this book. June the 15th, I was told that the committee voted, I think it was 4-3, to keep the book, and it could be utilized by any teacher in the classroom. I immediately appealed the decision, and I informed all the board members, I informed the supervisors, I informed my principal, my assistant principal, who actually agreed with my idea about this book, because you're asking for trouble bringing in a book like this. But I appealed the decision, I sent the paperwork immediately, and on August the 1st, Mr. Mercanio, the assistant superintendent for the school district, said he would be in touch. So that was August the 1st. I then decided to start looking at some of the books that we actually had in our library. Prior to school being out, a student walked into my room and she said, we just had the free book fair, and I went into the book fair, and this is the book I picked up, but you can have it. And I said, oh, because now I'm a book lover. And I said, why? This looks great. She said, oh no, I will get in so much trouble if I take this home. And the book, again, I've never heard of this. This is called The Girl from the Sea. This book was given away free at our book fair, and so I started looking through it. On the inside cover, which tells you all about the book, it basically says, this is a story about queer romance and transformation and finding oneself through loving someone else. It's a story about two girls who decide to keep, 15-year-old girls, and they decide to keep their love affair hidden from their parents. And at the end, they decide they may run away, they may not run away, but they're going to tell the world that they are gay and face the consequences. The student who brought this to me was very upset about it, and I was too. Because who provided this in our libraries for students to receive free? Unreal. Coincidentally, I looked this up on our Destiny program. This book is available in middle schools and high schools in our district. And the concern is the fact that this relationship was hidden and encouraged to be hidden from the parents. This led me into actually looking at so many of the books in our libraries. And I started finding numerous books. I could not even sleep. The first list that I came up with a list of 33 books. And I submitted this list on August the 5th to the board members and to Dr. Smith and to my principal, my assistant principal. And there were books in this list that had extreme sexual graphic content. Some of this graphic content I'll share with you. This is a book that's available at high schools and middle schools in our district. This is called Poet X. This is a masturbation scene. In bed at night, my fingers search a heat. I have no name for it. Sliding into a center, finding a hidden core or stem, or maybe the root. I'm learning to caress and breathe at the same time, how to be silent and feel something grow inside of me. And when it all builds up, I sink into my mattress. I feel such release, such a relief. I feel such a shame settle like a blanket covering me head to toe. To make myself feel this way is a dirty thing, right? Then why does it feel so good? I kept reading various books and actually I have read 117 books and identified that many books for obscene content based on Florida Statute 847.012, which tells us it's a direct violation to present obscene material to children. So I kept sending the school district excerpts, and I tried to make it easier for them. I sent another list of 33. We have a book in our middle schools and high schools called Almost Perfect, and it too has chapter after chapter on how to masturbate. The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. It has been literally taken off the shelf in so many places. In Set 3 and Set 4, I decided to start actually pulling in excerpts from some of the books, and that's what I started doing. Here is some graphic sexual content, including bestiality in Beloved by Toni Morrison. Direct quote, effing cows, but of course the whole word was used, abuse of young girls, extremely graphic sexual content and excitement, bestiality. They were young and so sick with the absence of women they had taken to calves, yet they let the iron-eyed girl be, so she could choose in spite of the fact that each one would have beaten the others too much to have her. It took her a year to choose, a long, tough year of thrashing on pallets, eaten up with dreams of her, a year of yearning when rape seemed the solitary gift of life. All in their 20s, minus women, effing cows, dreaming of rape, thrashing on pallets, rubbing their thighs, and wanting for the new girl by the certainty of giving her his sex. Paul D., he's a character, dropped 25 years from his recent memory. A stair step before him was Baby Suggs' replacement, the new girl they dreamed of at night, and effed cows for at dawn while waiting for her to choose. So that book is even talking about bestiality. The whole point is this is not about banning books or anything of that nature. It's about making sure our books are age appropriate and content appropriate. One of the things I'm very concerned about is that we have so much sexual content for our middle school age kids. One of the biggest surprises that I had throughout this whole process of starting to delve into the books that were in throughout our whole district, I have found many books that would be considered obscene based on our state and our federal guidelines, and they're obscene enough that they could immediately be removed from the shelves. Whether it's because of the content itself based on the graphic sexual acts or even pictures. I want people to understand that their children are actually having available to them graphic sex act pictures. I have found recently pictures of a man holding down a woman while he rapes her, and another woman is helping hold the woman, and this is available in our high schools. It's called The Handmaid's Tale, the graphic novel. The book itself, the plot is it's about a dystopian society and so forth. It has a good plot. But the fact that these pictures are available to our students, we don't need a committee to decide if this is considered obscene. We don't need that. These sorts of things need to be pulled immediately, and that has been my concern throughout this whole process. We have books in our library. Imagine my shock when I found sketches in a poetry book of a woman pleasing herself with a sexual pleasure poem beside her. This picture, and there were many, is from a book called Milk and Honey. Now you can imagine what the Milk and Honey stands for. Horribly, horribly obscene material. And it's in our school libraries. Something I did notice, and I am trying to make our board members very aware of this because it really concerns me, I am noticing that a lot of books that seem to fit the criteria for obscene material are in our minority schools. I'm talking about the percentage is very, very high in our minority schools. I don't know why. Is no one questioning this? This is a book called Deo Gratias. It's at the high school level. If you can see this is a copy that I made. It basically talks about saving the white girl. Now, Deo Gratias is Hispanic. He's black and Hispanic. And it talks about saving the white girl, saving her, the P word and the C word, for someone else. So the black boys would not be able to have that. Horrible, horrible. And these are graphic pictures. Now, my concern is, how many of these do we have? So I was told that I needed to start submitting forms, and I did so. I have now submitted 117 forms of those books that I have identified that need to be quickly removed or at least taken off the shelves while a committee reviews these books. The whole time that I've been sending these in, I have been asking, what are you going to do with these books? In the meantime, can you please get these off the shelves so that students won't see them? One of the things that really, really concerns me that I'm noticing in so much of the new literature is the idea of pedophilia, and the child is being molested, attacked, raped, or whatever, and at the end of the attack, she decides she likes it. There's no remorse in the author's voice. So for a committee to come back and say, oh, this is needed for the overall plot of the story, no. Because in that author's voice, there's no shame in what has just happened to this main character, who is a minor, by the way. But I wanted to share with parents one of the books that's available at our high schools. This is called All Boys Aren't Blue. I made our district aware of this book on August the 4th. I checked last night, and the book is still on the shelves. It's still on the shelves. And there are some words I'm not going to pronounce. My mouth won't say them. This is about two boys who are going at it. The name of this chapter is Losing My Virginity Twice. And I'm understanding now, I have become educated reading these books in our library. I'm understanding that that refers to anal sex. Okay? So, now I was as scared as H-E-L-L. One, because I didn't know what I was doing, and clearly he did. Two, because it was still college, and my fear of word getting out that I was inexperienced or bad in bed would have been too big of a campus rumor, let alone that I was having sex with men and a friend of someone in my chapter. For the first few minutes, we dry humped and grinded. I was behind him with my stomach on his back as we kissed. After a few minutes of fun and games, he got up and went to his nightstand where he pulled out a condom and some lube. He then lay down on his stomach. I knew what I had to do, even if I had never done it before. I had one point of reference, though, and that was 7+ years of watching pornography. Although the porn was heterosexual, it was enough of a reference point to me to get the job done. I remember the condom was blue and flavored like cotton candy. I put some lube on and got him up on his knees, and I began to slide into him from behind. I tried not to force it because I imagined that it would be painful. I didn't want this moment to be painful, so I eased in slowly until I heard him moan. As we moved, I could tell he was excited. I was too, but the pride in me told me not to show it. I felt like I was in control and proud of myself for getting it right on the first try, all the while still being nervous. I wanted to stay dominant in that moment. We went at it for about 15 minutes before I started to get that feeling, weakness in the legs, numbness in the waist. I finally came and let out a loud moan, to the point where he asked me to quiet down for the neighbors. I pulled out of him and kissed him while he masturbated. Then he also came.
Is this book in middle schools?
This book is currently at the high schools in our district, and the way this works is through Destiny, as it could be, let's say that it's at Washington High School. You can order the book no matter what high school you're in. You can have the book shipped to your high school. So any student can have access to the book. When I alerted downtown that this book was in our school district, I sent them I did all the work. I said, look, I've already read the book. Look at these excerpts. You don't need a committee to decide we need to remove this book off the shelves. According to Florida statutes, anything that causes sexual excitement is a form of obscenity. Hello? We're dealing with 14, 15, 16-year-old people here. I was ignored. The book is still on the shelves. And this is one of 117.
What do you say to people who say that people like you are censors, that you want to burn the books and deprive the children of this type of education?
Give me 5 seconds and I can turn your kid onto real literature. The reason we have authors like Shakespeare and Thoreau and Hemingway who have stood the test of time is because they don't have to use shock effect to get people's attention. You know why? They're real writers. This is not real writing. These people will not stand the test of time. They have to use shock effect to get people's attention. But in the meantime, look at the damage that we are doing to minors. These are minor children. They have been put in our care. How can we as a school district openly purchase these sorts of books, and even in a library setting, which according to Florida statutes, it's against the law to offer obscene books in a school, a public school? How can we do it? Every email that I have sent to the school board members, and you can see my list with dates, is 2 pages, begging them to do something. Please do something. This is not acceptable material. And even if they don't agree with my synopsis of this, at least take the books off the shelves during the meantime while somebody reviews the book. That's been my contention all along. Who has pre-read these books and ordered them? What has happened here? I sent an email. Every time when I send an email, my argument is if we do not allow students to say these words in the hallway, if we do not allow people at the school to wear these sorts of words or graphic depictions of people having sex on their shirts, then why would we allow it in the classroom or in our libraries? We're doing a doublespeak. This is not acceptable. And I was appalled when I listened to the September 16th board meeting the other night, and I heard the school district's attorney reference a court case from 1982 called the Pico v. 12 Rivers Independent School District court case. She said, and I quote, she said, our superintendent and the board members do not have the authority to remove these books, that we have to go through a process. By the way, we don't have this process yet. But she said we have to go through a process before these books can be removed. So I sent her a specific email asking her, and this has been 2 days ago, and of course she has not responded. I wanted to clarify, number one, why would she use that case as a precedence? Because there was no precedence in that case. In that case, Pico, of course, was upset that books were being taken out of the library, he and a few of his friends. They took this to the district courts. It went to the appeals court. It ended up going all the way to the Supreme Court because it was a split decision. The district court said students have rights. The appeals court said no, the school has rights. The Supreme Court, it was not a majority opinion. It was a plurality. It was 4-4. And the final vote actually said that it needed to go back to the lower courts. Ultimately, our superintendent and our school board members and even our administration for each school needs to govern the schools. They are the ones responsible for the curriculum. Your library books, this is an extension of your curriculum. Somebody needs to do something.
You've told us that you've corresponded, sent emails to various school board members in the district. What are you hearing back from the board members, specifically here in District 5, Mr. Bill Slayton?
Not anything. The only board members who have contacted me have been Kevin Adams and Paul Fetzko. I will tell you that the media has picked up on this because parents are starting to I don't know how my list have gotten out, but they've gotten out, which I'm glad. Maybe that's what it's going to take. And parents are very, very surprised. They're like me. I've been teaching at my school for 20 years, and I never knew we had these kind of books in the library. I'm actually embarrassed, and I feel like I haven't done a good job as being a custodian of students.
Vicki, what advice would you give parents who are concerned about this or other issues in the school? How do they influence or get involved with their children's education?
The first thing they should do is start reading and pay attention to books. Go on to Destiny and look to see if those books are anywhere in our district. And keep a record, make lists. We do not need these sorts of books with our children, and they would need to contact the board members, contact the administrators. This is not book banning. This is making sure that we have appropriately aged material for our students. Would you want a 12-year-old child having the access to read what I just read? Now, I've had a parent to say to me, yes, but students are exposed to this every day. You know what? Not while they're in my care, and not while they're in my friend's care. Most of my colleagues feel the exact same way. Our job is to protect and nurture. It is not to expose these kids to this. If you want your children to be exposed to this sort of thing, do it at home. Do it at home, that's fine. Or take them to the public library. They have all kinds of things that they can check out there. The school, because the school has purchased these sorts of material, we are implicitly saying, here you go. That is not acceptable. This in no way brings kids up. Instead, it simply puts stuff in their minds that shouldn't be there.